Welcome back to the Caribou Data Science channel. It's the afternoon of October 21st in Central Ohio here. And first of all, before we begin, I want to thank all you 41 subscribers who have subscribed to my channel. But if you haven't subscribed to the channel, then please go ahead and click the red S button in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen and subscribe to the Caribou Data Science channel. It means a great deal to me, and it really encourages me to continue to work, to continue to produce these reports every day. And also, if you find this report to be both helpful and encouraging, or encouraging even, just like and share the video. Okay? So now let's go ahead, run the report for the U.S. Okay? So we're averaging 30,085 cases per day on average, and we're averaging 933 deaths on average, okay? Now, I hate to be a conspiracy theorist, but the thought occurred to me recently. Maybe the reason the deaths is so low, maybe the reason the deaths is because somebody's withholding the real numbers for the deaths until right before the election. That's just my personal opinion here, okay? Nothing to support it. Let's take a look at the mortality rate. The mortality rate is simply you divide deaths by cases. That's the method that Wikipedia says, and that's also the way that Johns Hopkins University calculated. Nothing more complicated than that. So if this is 5%, then let's say this is 4%, okay? Look at all the days when the average mortality rate for the day, when the daily mortality rate was less than the average. So if we say this is 4%, okay? Let's just see. What's the sum of cases? Okay, so if we say there's no, we say that the mortality rate for cases, all right, now that's the total number of cases. Now, in theory, if we multiply that by 5%, that should tell us what our actually the total number of deaths should be. Let's try this. $405,000 deaths. If our deaths were running at or above the average, we would have 409,000 deaths. So where are these missing deaths? Okay, we're at 219,289. Who's that? That means there's something wrong. Okay, now that's sort of interesting. What's the mean? Where does the rate show up? Where does the rate show up? Okay, let's do this. What's the average rate? Okay. So what's the average mortality rate? 3.3%. Now, if you multiply that 3.3 3.3%. Let me see some here. So, if we say we have 4 million people, right? 4.4 million cases times 0.003. Okay, this should tell us what the number of deaths should be at. Okay, that's obviously not right, is it? Cases. 8 million. Okay, we should have 273,000 deaths instead of 219. Okay, and that's an interesting point, isn't it? Right? It's 3.3% times the total number of cases. 273,000 deaths we should be at. But instead, we're at what? 219,000. All right. So anyway, where are we now? Let's just keep that number in mind. But why? Because of all these, this is 3.3%. All these days when the deaths and the mortality rate is under. The reason this is so is because of all the days when the deaths were under the average. So now, if we take a look at once again at the cases, we already know the story here. We know that cases are increasing. I won't say exponentially, but they certainly are, if you pardon the expression, skyrocketing. Remember, this was the first spike back, and we look back now, and this little decline here was nothing. So it spiked here, then it dropped. So why? The question is, why did it drop here? What changed between here and here, and here and here? Now it's climbing back up. Now will it drop back down again? We don't know, of course. But this, by the way, this shaded line is the 17 to 21 day incubation period, according to Washington University's Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation. Now, in theory, if there's a 21-day period between infection and death, anything to the left of that line has already come and gone. The deaths should have already occurred for everybody beyond to the left of this line. We should be seeing the deaths associated with this line right here, right now. And these are dates yet to come, because this chart, depending how you look at it, either the chart moves left or the bar moves right. But as we also seen, there should be maybe 50,000 more deaths based on the mortality rate, on the average mortality rate. So the question is, have we really done that good of a job somehow in lowering the deaths, lowering the fatalities? Or is there some other more sinister scheme going on behind the scenes? I certainly hope and pray that no one is withholding the numbers, in order to release them, before the election. I certainly hope that. But we live in dangerous times. We live in highly polarized and political times when everything is politicized. But nonetheless, based on the reported and confirmed case deaths, this is what it looks like. From here to here is a roughly 80 to 84% decline in the number of deaths. The deaths have continued on average to decline downward since this is, I believe this is April 16th. Now, certain organizations don't seem to want you to know this right here. They only want you to know the total number of cases and the total number of deaths. They don't want you to know that the sacrifice that you and me are making is making a difference in the number of deaths. Okay? Once again, this is a close-up. We zoom into July. We zoom into June. And here, once again, here is that 17 to 21 day period here, time frame there. Whereas the death, in theory, the deaths associated with this spike here should have already taken place. Zoom in closer to cases or deaths, and you can see the continued decline. You do see a slight flattening there, but you still see the steady downward decline. Now, this line here is the average number of cases per week. And you can see, once again, this spike over here. And this spike, the current spike right there. Okay? We're not going to see the deaths associated with this spike, with this case right here for another 2 to 3 weeks. But the deaths associated again with this spike here should have already taken place. Now we get to the good news. This is the average number of deaths per week. So if this is 7,500, okay, 5,000 difference, then this is what, 6,500 cases, 6,500 deaths per week. Look at all the weeks when it is below this average here. Look at this over here. Okay? Let's take a look at cases by week. If we look at the cases by month, the cases actually declined the previous 2 months, although October was certainly catching past September's numbers. Deaths, you can see the decline in deaths once again right here. An increase here followed by a decline. Now, it remains to be seen whether October is going to finish at or below, at or above this September line. We can hope and pray that the number stays below this here. Okay? And this is just a simple plot I did to amuse myself. The red line, these are a plot, as it says, of COVID-19 deaths, comparing a 14-day moving average and a 30-day moving average. Okay? I'm not sure if that's useful for any purpose or not, but there it is nonetheless. So anyway, the good news continues. Cases are continuing to decline. Okay? The number of cases we should have based on the average mortality rate is 273,000. We're currently at 219, let's say 220,000, which means there's a 50,000 death difference between what we're at and what we should be at based on the mortality rate. Okay? So that's incredibly good news. So let's just run this report real quick here. Or I saw this, so let's just go ahead and so that takes care of the report video yesterday. And once again, if any of you have subscribed to the Caribou Data Science channel, thanks so much, but also appreciate even more if you would like and share these videos if you find them both encouraging or helpful. For you who are watching but have subscribed, I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me if you click the red S button, the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, and subscribe to the Caribou Data Science Challenge. Thanks so much for your time. We'll catch you on the next report.